Hello and welcome to this Power BI tutorial with me, James from Matador Software. Today we've got an interesting video on breaking down some slightly more complex DAX, and we're actually going to be using DAX variables to dynamically show costs depending whether a delivery was late or on time, and we're going to be connecting data from different tables. So if you've not done that before, you might want to stick around and have a look at a real business use case. So everything depends on this delivery status and whether items are late and on time, because that will impact our transport charge per load, as you can see, and whether there's a late charge applied. And this is different for every customer. However, you can see the data on the right is coming from a different table, but it corresponds directly to the data on the left. So we will need the load amount, the customer, the delivery status, and then we can apply a transport charge per load or a late charge. And we're going to use variables and a calculated column to do this all in one go. And we will also have an if function at the end to dynamically change the costs and provide them by row. And this will all make sense as we go through this example. So we have our icon map. I covered this in the last video. Please go and check it out. It's a great visual. And we're tracking our logistics fleet within London. And this is just wrapped within a tablet PNG overlay. Like I said, we have data coming from two different tables. This first one at the top that's selected, the delivery status is coming from London Logistics, and the customer charges are coming from this customer charges table where we have the charge per load or the late charge, as you can also see here. So we need to connect these, and what we want to do is show the respective cost as per the customer charges, whether it's standard or late, beside each of the delivery status rows within that table, so that we can then look at our data, see where we're losing money, where we need to try recoup some, and where our charges are becoming too expensive. So it's a great real life supply chain use case, and also not everyone's connected tables and used DAX calculated columns that span across two tables. So the first thing we need to do is create a new column by hitting that ellipsis or three dots. Now we can move into actually creating our DAX calculated column. So we're going to use some comments. Again, we will format this as cleanly as possible. There isn't actually, hard and fast rules to formatting. Usually you want to separate things, make them as easy to see, and if you can, apply line breaks, really. So we've got the two forward slashes to say that we're going to create our standard and late cost variables. And this will start to make more sense as we go through the full video. So please stay tuned and wait until the end to see how everything fits together. So we need to create our first variable, and we use the VAR keyword to state it's a variable, and we're just going to call this standard underscore charge because that underscore will replace the space. And all we actually need to do here is take the load amount, which is one load. I've made this nice and easy in this example, and we just need to multiply it, use that asterisk to show the standard transport charge, so the transport charge per load. Now, when we're connecting the data from two different tables, it's already connected in the relationships in our model. So we actually just need to reference it, and we could use related table or related. As we're going for a column, we want to use related. So we can just go, the load amount needs to be multiplied by the customer charges in a related column that's being connected in relationships, and the transport charge per load by customer. So that's going to give us our standard rate. And we'll see how as we work through this, everything pieces together. We could have made this a lot more long-winded by having maybe a few measures and then connecting it all together in a final calculated column, but that wouldn't have made much sense. We'll keep things clean, use variables, and make everything very readable and easy to follow. So Here we go, the standard charge just uses the load and the default transport charge. I've added that comment there. So now we can create a late charge variable. Now we're just going to follow our flow, and we're going to take the standard charge variable, and we've set our data up in such a way that we just applied this multiplier that was in the customer charges table. So just all we're doing now is multiplying our standard charge by our late charge multiplier. So you may have seen before, it could be 1.15, it could be 2, and so on. So we could be doubling the cost if it's a late delivery, or we could be adding on 15%, and so on. So that gives us our standard charge and our late charge. So what we need to do now is make things slightly dynamic, and we can use an if function within DAX for this. However, it's important to note when you've used variables previously, we've declared them, now you need to call them. You need to bring them into play. So you have to use that return keyword, and we've done that. And now we can just go straight through into an if function within DAX. So the logical test, all we're saying is if that delivery status column that we looked at the start is late, then we can apply the following result, where we just go straight to our late charge variable, and it'll go back within the DAX, and it'll look at how that was constructed. So it'll give us the late charge, and then the next line we just say anything else, just apply standard charge, because obviously it had to be on time if it wasn't late. So it's very logical. We've got a standard charge and a late charge variable, and then we go through, we return those variables by using an if function, and that will help it correspond to the correct rows and apply a late charge to late deliveries and a standard to standard. And if functions are simple, they're a core of any programming, but you can think of it in plain English, you know, if it's raining, take an umbrella, else don't. It's very simple. So let's apply this to a table and see if everything works as expected. So we can format this out, and we can see that everything seems to be working as we think it should be. So if we look at the first line, we see that the item was late, and that's with enter free. If we look in our table with the data, we see its standard charge is 350, and it's applied that extra 15% onto our charge because we were late, so that makes sense. Steel Savers and Refuse Direct, they are hitting their standard charges, so 225 and 275 respectively, as we would expect. And then Livewire, we have a late delivery, and now what it's done, it's gone through that if function, it said right, that was late, so we're going to apply 1.5 times the standard cost, and so on. So hopefully this has been a nice detailed example as to how you can combine tables and get the respective values, and really the power of using variables and then going into an if function. As usual, if you like this content, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment and share. Thank you.